Everybody, we have joining us today. We'll open up the chat. We have Sam Sigelman and Jim Sexton joining Marnie and me this week. Marnie, how's your week been out there in California?
Well, it's been pretty calm, I assume, compared to the rest of you. I live about an hour north of San Francisco. And I was today at a protest with Jennifer Reeder, who is one of our classmates who lives nearby with me, and she and I are friends. But we're safe and sound and really just trying to appreciate the moment where Black Lives Matter to me and my family and honor all of the important civil rights work that's going on right now. Thanks for asking. How about you, Jason?
Yeah. Well, I work for a newspaper here in Madison, Wisconsin, and we have had protests starting on Saturday. I covered protests on Saturday night and Sunday night. And as we were talking about earlier, tear gas both nights, which is an odd sensation if you've never experienced it.
What's it like, Jason, to be tear gassed? I've never been tear gassed.
I mean, I was pretty close this time, both times, and I saw what was happening, so I retreated and got away. So I didn't get the full effect of just debilitating, sneezing and tearing and crying. But yeah, my eyes. We want this story, Jim.
Oh well, no, this wasn't from the recent riots. It was the homecoming. 1988 St. Cloud State homecoming riots. You might remember that. And yes, it's true, right? So some of us stepped out and were kind of in the background watching some of it, but then the cops showed up with their riot gear and started dispersing the tear gas. And we ran back into the dorm rooms right outside the dorm, and it was just coming right through the windows. And it's painful. Yeah, it's not a pleasant experience at all. A long time ago, but anyway.
So this is at St. Cloud State. Is this when you were in college?
Yes. It was a party. It was a party school. Year? Pardon me?
It's your freshman year?
Yes. Yeah, freshman year, and I had nothing to do with it. It was just a bunch of idiots that were they were lighting couches on fire out in the street, and there was never really any explanation as to why the rioting was going on. I don't know, maybe someone tuning in knows more about it than I do.
Well, speaking of tuning in, I wanted, before we go to Sam, I see that we have Diana Masters Penagor, forgive me for mispronouncing your name, and Kyle Smith here so far, so thank you for coming.
Yeah, we're expecting many more. Sam, tear gas stories?
I have no tear gas stories. I have St. Cloud State stories, but we don't have enough time for that.
We do. Did you visit Jim in college at St. Cloud State? Did you have boy time?
You did once.
I did not. No, I did not visit Jim in college.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I
You forgot. Yeah, I remember you did once.
What, really? Tell me about it. Please share.
Yeah, well, like you and Sam and I were talking yesterday about how both of us remember so little from, day-to-day high school stuff. I mean, you might remember like a specific event, but it's all a blur now, isn't it? It was so long ago. So yeah. College right after that, but I do remember you were up there to party and you found me up there somehow, and
the red carpet.
No, it was, I think you came to my apartment or something. I don't know how you found me, but you did.
Wow.
Yeah, you were.
It was probably hockey related. It was probably Minnesota St. Cloud State related.
That could have been, is possibly junior year when St. Cloud went Division II. Or Division I. They went from Division II to Division I. Yeah.
Well, so Jim, you live pretty close to 38th in Chicago. Can you just fill us in on how your week has been? What's been going on at your house?
Well, so the night after the murder, they had everyone was supposed to come down kind of for a gathering, and somebody was speaking in the intersection there, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. It was very crowded, and there started to be some scuffles going on. So my wife and I headed back, but we were there for, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes, and And yeah, but since then, my neighborhood's been very lucky. It's been pretty quiet because it's 38th in Chicago itself is a memorial now. It's sacred grounds. No one's really messing with it. So yeah, I'm about 2.5 blocks from there. And the only thing that's been affecting the traffic around here, it's hard to, if I'm heading to the west, it's kind of hard to get out. So I'm kind of adjusting to that, but no big deal. But yeah, it's terrible what happened. It really is. If you wanted an opinion on that, I mean, most cops, I believe, are good people, but there are way too many that are racist. This has been going on quite a while. Something needs to be done. Yeah, the system
Sam,
needs
do
to
you
be
want
reformed.
to, Sam, do you want to weigh in on the week's events? How things, you said earlier you're a little bit over toward Lake Harriet, you're west of Jim. Your guys are a novelty here in that you both live in Minneapolis. Yeah. Marnie's on the West Coast, I'm in Wisconsin. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know what, when I look back at the week, the events over the past week, I think what is kind of shocking to myself is I remember seeing a tweet Monday night, early Tuesday morning about the incident. And there was video accompanied with the tweet. And I remember I saw it and I was disgusted, but you know what? It didn't shock me. I wasn't, and it really bothers me to say that this type of awful behavior is systemic. It's, the bad apple theory that Jim is sharing is, could be true, but some professions, you shouldn't have bad apples. And this is one of them. And I'll tell you, I'm not surprised on how big the outcry has been internationally. It's only strange to maybe Jim and me that the incident happened so close to us that it's strange that has prompted this worldwide outcry. But I think, Jason, to answer your question, as I look back and, I think when it came to the violence associated with folks taking advantage of the protests under that cover, I was concerned. 31st and Nicollet gets a little close, and we were really concerned. The neighbor and I sat on our porch till midnight the other night just to watch what's going on in front of my house here. I live on the corner of our neighborhood. But I think what's shocking to me is that I was hardly surprised that this happened, because this happens and it's not, I wasn't taken back by it initially.
When you first saw excuse me, Sam, when you first saw the video, did you kind of think also that, geez, I wonder if anything will happen to this cop? I mean, we're both just disgusted by it, but you're thinking, well, what's the worst that's going to happen is he'll get fired maybe. And I mean, but I'm so glad that he's up on murder charges, because that's what it is. It's murder. I think it should be second-degree murder, don't you?
Yeah, it's a second-degree murder. Manslaughter charge is appropriate. And although I'm not a master when it comes to criminal law, there's a premeditated aspect to it when you're doing something and you believe it can result in a murder of somebody. That can be considered premeditated, even though you didn't plan to murder that person when you woke up that given day. But, and you know what, I think my reaction isn't that unusual among the folks that live in Minneapolis. He didn't get fired the next day. It took until, if I recall correctly, Wednesday or Thursday, I want to say, before.
I think it was Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday. So, and this happened
2 days after.
Yeah, 2 days after. So, it demonstrates a systemic issue that the Minneapolis police has had. It demonstrates how police officers view certain people based on their background to determine that they're a threat or have committed a crime, and it sucks. It's sad. This whole week has been tough. On top of it, and I joked before we went on, I mean, coronavirus is totally off the map. I mean, it's completely off the map. It's going to come back, believe me, right? But it is not an issue here as far as the news cycle goes.
Whoa.
It's just no one talks about coronavirus, and we were peaking before this happened. Minnesota was trending upwards with cases and deaths when it came to coronavirus, and this bumped it off not only the front page, Section A.
What's interesting, we went to 2 different protests this week, my family and I, and it was the first time we had been in public since the lockdown. And I noticed, many people trying to keep their social distancing. We have like masks required here in the Bay Area, but it was, the teens couldn't help but like hug each other and rub up against each other, and they were wearing their masks, but the younger people, it was hard for them to contain their like high school things.
Yeah, no, it's,
Yeah.
I think, frankly, in essence, most Americans are just kind of tired going through the coronavirus restrictions. I think we're just kind of tired, but that's a whole different topic.
I mean, I'll say this from my perspective, and we talked about how before my parents moved us out to Minnetonka, I lived just a few blocks south of where Jim is at 47th in Chicago. My parents both grew up in South Minneapolis. They went to Minneapolis South High School, the old South High School. And, I'm really proud of being from Minneapolis and the Twin Cities and living here in Wisconsin amongst the Packer fans and everything. I have to sort of battle for whatever I get. And, this sort of idea that Minneapolis is this golden city, this very progressive, a place where, sort of borderline democratic socialism works for the people, and these very progressive mayors and politicians. I mean, I really think that reputation has taken a huge hit here in the last week. And all of a sudden, this great city that many people really look to as an ideal is not that.
My thought on that. Oh, go ahead, Marnie.
Well,
Sorry.
I'm just thinking, I have a different opinion. I'm taking a much more national perspective on it, maybe because I haven't lived in Minneapolis since I was 18. But I don't think that Minneapolis is reputation or story is taking a hit, for a lack of a better phrase. I think it's a city that has some problems. It's all like on TV every day. And then I see people trying to do things better.
There is a lot of love here, and it's I've noticed in my neighborhood the neighbors are really coming together. Obviously, we can't touch each other, but we are all, sort of, getting some kind of spirit going on this, and coming together and trying to defend the neighborhood and all that, and keep the evil out, and it's just a weird time though. It's a very strange adjustment for everybody. But I'm about 8 blocks south of Lake Street, and so much devastation in this area. I mean, my wife was telling me that, geez, all the stores I go to, I'm going to have to find somewhere else to go now. Everything's destroyed, burned down. It's going to take a while to recover from this.
Yeah.
Sam, you were going to say something too?
I don't know I don't know what I was going to say and when, but I think when it comes to Minneapolis, Jason and Marnie, I mean, you both had different perspectives. I think I agree with Jason a bit. I think Minneapolis has taken somewhat of a hit. I think it'll be interesting on how this plays out. I think the police department, at a minimum, needs to address their hiring practices. I don't think 6 to 7% of the police force who are currently from Minneapolis is a high enough number. If you're going to patrol the folks that you're patrolling, you should maybe live near them, not come in from Cambridge or Isani or Oakdale, where the perpetrator involved here is from. I really think that would go a long way, and I think that's a huge issue. I think the police union Everybody knows who Bob Kroll is probably now. If you don't, just Google his name. But he sets a tone in that police department, even though he's not the police chief, he's just the union head. And it's scary. And this has happened. It's happened, I'm guessing, off camera several times. And what's scary about that whole event is the Chauvin's face and smirk, and that he knew that this person is dying, and he had a badge and he didn't care. And I'll never forget that clip. I think all of us will never forget. And I hope that moment changes us. I can tell you it's changed me in the sense that we've been rather introspective in my family and try to determine, have we done enough? I mean, my kids go to Minneapolis public schools, but frankly, folks, the schools my kids go to, not much different than the schools in Edina. I mean, we're just on the other side of France, so from Edina, and it's not what you would assume to be representative of Minneapolis school. To give folks who don't know where I live, my kids will eventually go to Southwest High School. So I think it's been really tough. This whole week has been tough. It's been incredibly tough year. My good friend and mentor of mine passed away at the age of 63 on Memorial Day, and then this happened, and with COVID-19, and it's just been, it's been really rough. I want to go back six months. We all do, and we can't. And yet, I have to find a way to raise kids in this environment. This is something that none of us had to grow up in, and so it's really tough. It's tough for them to understand what's going on. It's tough for me to be a father to my kids because I don't have experience in this area. So it's been tough, guys.
Well, Sam, that leads to an interesting point, because one of my questions here, to shift gears a little bit, was
Thank you.
One of the fun things about following our classmates and friends on social media is you get to see them with their kids, and you are always taking your boys. I think they've been to every sports venue in North America at this point. So, I mean, I'm sure you had plans for spring break and like the week after they get out of school and stuff like that. But can you tell me a little bit about this plan of yours that clearly you're executing to get these kids into baseball parks all over America?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a grand scheme that in the way you're describing it, Jason, but maybe it plays out that way. But we take pretty aggressive trips where we'll fly into, like for instance, a couple years ago, we flew into Boston, drove south and stayed in Providence, went to a Pawtucket Red Sox game, AAA affiliate of the Red Sox. And then from there, we went to Cape Cod, went to a couple Cape Cod League games, did Cape Cod. And then from there, we went up to Maine, went to the AA affiliate of the Red Sox in Portland, Maine, the Portland Sea Dogs. And then from there, we went to Acadia. The thing is on these trips, you got to mix in the history, the flavor of the area. We went to Salem, saw the witch trial memorial, and then in Boston, where we ended up back in Boston, we saw the Red Sox and Yankees play a couple games.
Ooh.
Okay, help me out as a non-sports person. Tell me about your kids, please.
Oh, well, they go to a lot of sporting events.
But how many are they? Like,
I have two boys. I have two boys. They are finishing this week, I guess, in distance learning or whatever this is. 6th and 8th grade. So my oldest will be a freshman in high school this coming fall. And they're active. They've been great during this COVID-19 and really understanding. And so to answer your question, Jason, we try to mix it up and do fun things. And one thing that I did with my oldest in January, I thought, you know what? Let's do something crazy. let's go to the AFC Championship game tomorrow. And this was on a Saturday, and no one will remember what it was like the Saturday in Minnesota before the AFC Championship game, but it was snowing. You could not, as we're driving down 35 Saturday evening, I couldn't see more than a quarter mile ahead of me. The snow was drifting in front of me, and I wanted to get to Des Moines, but I stopped in Albert Lee and then drove the rest of the way the next morning. I mean, stupid crazy. But, you know, we went down to Arthur Bryant's. We ate lunch at Arthur Bryant's and went over to Arrowhead, and so much fun. And I tell my son, I said, you know, since COVID-19 kicked in, that's probably the largest sporting event that will happen in the United States this year. And it was so much fun. It was a blast. And, you know, and to really kind of in this segment, I'll tell you guys, although you might not know, I about 9 years ago now, and Jim knows, I had kidney cancer, and I had surgery, and I no longer have kidney cancer. Survived that, and I kind of realized at that moment that life is full of experiences. Don't go live life. Go out there. Go have fun. Go do things. Push it to the limit within reason to do things. And, you know, bring your family to those places and events and what have you. So I kind of took that on, and that's probably provoked all the various trips you're referring to.
Well, our mortality has created this podcast. So thank you again. I wanted to thank again, we have 3 people here, Tony Ceruno, who's going to be one of our future guests, Kyle Smith and Diana. And so we're opening it up to questions from the audience. But one of my questions is, so how long have you guys been buddies?
Well, what was it? Maybe probably 9th grade. We sort of got to know each other a bit. Sam, is that accurate?
Yeah, I'd say junior high.
Yeah, and actually, oh, sorry, you know how we were trying to remember stuff, right? Well, I remember that in 10th grade that year, I think you and I went to both a Twins game and a Vikings game together. You know, and but yeah, we kind of had this, it's weird. We had like, it's almost like we were frenemies, right? We were,
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes we were buddies and sometimes we were kind of rivals, but,
yeah. And Jim is right. And to that point, guys, I don't know why we did this, but such a high school moment. But Jim's laughing, he knows where I'm going. But some friends of mine whose names I won't reveal, we would have fun on a Friday or it was Saturday night generally. We'd have a lot of fun, go to a bunch of high school parties, and we kind of end the evening by stealing a yard sign, like a for sale sign or bird bath or something of note on someone's yard that was movable, and we would place it on Jim's front lawn. So when he woke up in the morning, his family would wake up in the morning, they'd see a Century 21 sign in their front yard and scratch their head. And we thought it was funny. We probably did that, Jim. Correct me if I'm wrong, probably 10 to 20 times.
Yeah, I was going to say about a dozen, maybe.
Yeah.
And Jim, what did you think when you woke up in the morning?
Oh, I was like, oh, that bastard Sigelman again.
Yeah, you knew it was Sam.
I'm good. Oh, yeah. I figured it out pretty quickly. And then one thing to note about that, there was a bird bath that they left, this really nice, I mean, really heavy stone bird bath. And my dad still has it to this day. He loves it, you know, keeps it out in his backyard. It's because we didn't know where it came from. So how are we supposed to return it, right?
Remember the general store on Highway 7 near Williston and Highway 7? They had the spotted cow, wooden spotted cow in front of the store. It might still be there because I can tell you we learned when we tried to take it was chained. We thought how cool would this be to get put in front of Jim's house? So yeah, that went awry. But the way the story ends, folks, is I realized Jim knew who was the perpetrator when on a Sunday morning my father woke me up, and admittedly I had a massive hangover, and he says, come downstairs, look outside. I don't want to know, but get rid of it. And there was probably 30 signs and bird baths in my parents' yard.
There was a couch, I think. I think we put a couch out there.
that-
Yeah.
That
I
was
won't name my partners in crime either, but yeah, I think that Jason knows a couple of those guys.
I know. I think I know many of the people involved in these crimes.
Oh, Jason,
Jim-
were you involved?
No,
No.
Jason was not involved, but he ran in some circles with some of these guys.
And then what
Jim,
happened?
tell us about. I'm sorry, Jim. I want to hear you talk about. I believe the band's name is the Stinch Bugs.
Now the Chinch Bugs.
Chinch Bugs. Tell
Yeah,
me the
well-
story of in a brief version of the VH1 rockumentary on the Chinch Bugs.
Well, the Chinch Bugs evolved from a band I was in the 90s called the Sandwiches. And we, we did pretty well locally. Got some good gigs, sold a bunch of CDs. And then, the band broke up in the late 90s. Our front man moved to New York. So then it was, a few years went by, and those of us that remained here wanted to just start up another band and just for the fun of it. And yeah, we called it the Chinch Bugs just for lack of, being able to agree on a name. It's a Caddyshack reference for those Caddyshack fans out there. Oh yeah, we did make 3 CDs. At this point, I got a bunch from collecting dust. If you want one, let me know. I'll send it to you.
What was your biggest gig in either of those bands, the Sandwiches or the?
Oh, we got it's funny. The second CD the Sandwiches did in '98. I remember this. It happened to be we had the CD release show booked for the Fine Line on a Saturday night. It just happened to be the same night as our 10-year reunion. So I could not go to the 10-year reunion. That's the reason I wasn't there. And that was a great gig. We packed the Fine Line on a Saturday night. But yeah, we played the Entry a lot, 400 Bar, Uptown Bar, various other places, It was a fun time. It's years ago. It's gone, We're old now. Oh, and by the way, so Sammy and I are 50. Are you guys 50 too? 50
I am
also?
50.
Yeah. Marnie?
No, I was a little early to school.
Oh, good for you. Well, I just wanted to, a shout out to all the people who weren't able to celebrate their 50th birthday before the pandemic hit. I would suggest, hey, next year, just live it up for your 51st, to make up for it.
Well, that's a good idea. Well, I have a question
No, you
from
don't.
the audience.
No,
Ready?
that was a
Damn,
bad
right?
night. That was such a bad night.
I have a question as we're wrapping up our wonderful 30 minutes. It's to Sam from Kyle Smith. Sam, have you been to a White Castle lately?
No.
I asked because I have a memory of running into Sam
Yeah,
on a Friday or Saturday night, and he had been drinking and ended up smashing a burger in his face.
That's that may be true. But I will thank Kyle publicly because I don't remember how I got to the White Castle that evening, but it was, I think it was the homecoming Friday evening. And we were having a lot of fun that night. And I don't remember how I got there, but Kyle was nice enough to drive me home. And I think that was isn't that the week where we have like the little sister and little brother? And
Mhm.
yeah, and my little sister was an exchange student from Russia, and and yeah,
That's a poor girl.
Couldn't have gotten a better draw.
yeah, right.
Question?
She was there, and I remember Kyle drove us home, and I don't remember what happened to her after that.
You will after we publish this on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
Hearing from the authorities, I'm sure.
Yes.
We don't have too much time left, but I did prepare some trivia. So those of you who are watching, please feel free to play at home. Wagering is not allowed, but what you do in your own time is your own business. All right. Name the principal of Hopkins High School when we attended. Bonus points if you have both names.
Tom
First
Bauman, right?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Tom
I remember
Bauman,
that.
was that easy? It was hard to come up with trivia. All right, Jim Sexton famously was the Winter Games king our senior year. Can you remember who the homecoming king was our senior year?
I had lunch with him last fall, Mike Lesage.
Okay, I'm gonna add one in, but who was the Winter Games queen?
Chris Arney.
Knew
How
that
can I
Jim would
forget
come up
that?
with
I'm not going to forget that one.
But
Long
who was
live the king.
who was the homecoming queen?
I
Johanna?
know. Darla, right?
Whoa, nice.
Yeah.
Darla Fellner.
Darla Fellner, you bet. Yep.
Darla Fellner. Darla Fellner is a lovely woman. She will never see this, I'm convinced. She has adopted many children.
Isn't that
Hello,
fine?
hello, mothers with children watch YouTube too.
Okay. Like with 12 children? They don't.
Yes, we watch
Right,
YouTube.
one final one, and this is going to introduce a new sort of, I think, a regular occurring theme. I came across this idea. This is a name that teacher question, okay?
Oh, I won't get it.
This teacher, very popular among Hopkins High School students, taught physiology and anatomy, otherwise known as P&A. Can you name him?
Mr. Belding.
Oh wait, was his name Bosacker?
Bosacker, boom. Nailed it.
Yeah, I didn't take that class, but I certainly heard about the guy. Yeah.
Jim, you're the winner. Winner.
Those are pretty easy questions, really.
They were easy.
Yeah.
I stumped Marnie the first week with the
Everything.
Nancy question. No one could identify. You know, there's no memory of the big art installation on the wall of our cafeteria that said "Jack loves Nancy." Do you guys remember that?
No.
Wasn't that supposed to be, what, Lindbergh and Eisenhower coming together?
There's some thought on that, but yeah,
That's what
I
I
don't.
thought.
Maybe so.
It's gone now, and there's no reference to it on Google. You can't find photos of it anywhere.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing up some topics which we can address on our future shows, not to be the marketer, but we have some really exciting guests coming up. Tony Ceruno, who is here. Next week, we start with the women are coming on board, Deidre Schmidt. We have an episode with Jennifer Reeder and Nat McIntyre. We have one of the shows I have to say as we wind up that I want to organize is who was in charge of the great tennis ball fight?
Hmm.
Do you guys
Yeah,
have any
mystery.
memories of the tennis ball fight before we go?
I think I was walking to class and got hit by one, and hey, who's the wise guy? But no, other than that, no idea how that came about. Was that sophomore year?
Seems about right.
I don't know.
Sophomore,
Do you remember?
Yeah, and poor Sam, he doesn't remember anything. Is
I don't remember anything. I don't know
too
who
much
Mr.
alcohol,
Bosacker is.
you know.
Well,
All right, I think
thank you so much, you guys. You're amazing.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you
That was
very much
great.
for having us.
You guys
here.
do good
Yes.
work. Thank you.
we will post this on YouTube. We'll post the link on the Class of '88 Facebook page. Join us next week when Deidre Schmidt is here.
Yay!
Thanks, everybody. Have a good
Bye.
week.
Hey, Hop.